Hello, everyone. America has always been proud of its democratic freedom, and recently, when the 2024 presidential election was coming, former President Donald Trump was facing 4 criminal prosecution cases. It is entirely possible that he will go to prison, but as of now, he is still running for president. Yes, a prosecuted person has to spend up to $200,000 on bail, but can still run for the highest position in America. The position of president. Even in the future, people are asking what will happen if Trump is both unlucky and lucky. Fortunately, if he is found guilty by one of the 4 courts and has to go to jail, if he is lucky, he will win the U.S. presidential election, again, one of the most powerful positions on the planet. So will he ever be in prison and be president at the same time? And it's silly to ask like that, but an American law professor replied that it is completely possible according to U.S. election law. So what is the law that sounds so unreasonable? Let's find out together. Perhaps time has passed too quickly when it was just the other day that internet users were debating who won the presidential election, Trump or Biden. You know, the United States is preparing for an upcoming election next year. And remember that back then, many people supported Trump and criticized Biden, believing that Biden couldn't do anything with China and might even sell the United States to China. However, now you can see that Biden is taking a tougher stance and imposing strong sanctions on China, even more than Trump did, and the battle with China is becoming increasingly fierce. Therefore, when it comes to American politics, we should not rely solely on emotions because emotions are always the enemy of clarity. Speaking of the upcoming election, it seems that in the future, the United States will once again be led by one of the oldest presidents. As in the Democratic camp, Biden is set to continue his presidential candidacy for the next term. And you may be aware that Biden is now 80 years old. As for Trump, he may seem younger, but he's also 77 years old. Nevertheless, in the Republican Party, Trump remains the most trusted figure. You may not know that for Trump to represent the Republican Party and run for the presidential position, he has to prove himself as the most deserving candidate of the Republican Party. To do so, the Republican Party will have to frequently organize debates for the public to assess. But that's just the way it is with regular folks. Trump didn't play by those traditional rules. President Donald Trump once said, debating with others in the Republican Party is a waste of time. And the truth is he skipped the debates twice. Instead, he went to meet and speak at other places. For example, many members of the American auto industry are sure that Trump is very straightforward and somewhat arrogant. Do the American people trust the leadership of such a person? Surprisingly, within the Republican Party, up to 55% of voters support Trump, while the second most trusted figure only reaches 13%, and other candidates receive insignificant votes. So within the Republican Party, Trump has virtually no competition. What about the Democratic Party? Because, of course, President Biden leads the Democratic Party, and aside from the Democratic and Republican parties, the United States has other parties and candidates, but no third party has ever won outside of the Democratic and Republican parties. The interesting thing is that Trump's chances of winning are increasing, possibly due to the conflict in Ukraine, which is causing problems for the United States. Firstly, energy prices are unstable. The economy is facing difficulties, commodity prices are rising, and inflation is at a record high in history. Secondly, the support that the U.S. is providing to Ukraine is substantial, which is making many Americans very dissatisfied. So many people have shifted their trust from the leadership of the Democratic Party to President Trump because he vehemently opposes aid to Ukraine. Trump wants to reconcile with Russia and declares that he can end the war in Ukraine in just 24 hours. Analysts believe that if he were to do so, it's very likely that Trump would be willing to accept the conditions set by Russia, and the people might be tired of war and support Trump more strongly. Evidence shows that in polls from earlier this year, 48% of people supported Trump, while 44% supported Biden, giving Trump a slight advantage. However, more recently, survey results are even more surprising. Despite facing up to 4 criminal charges and legal troubles, Trump is gaining more trust. Surveys show that 52% of people would vote for him, while President Biden's support has dropped to 42%, meaning Trump is ahead by 10%. So if the election actually goes this way, it's highly likely that Trump will win.
Yeah.
It's true that the United States is unlike anywhere else. A person who is facing up to 90 charges and is about to be incarcerated is running for president and is the most popular choice. Just a month ago, Trump had to appear in a Georgia State Prison for allegedly trying to overturn the 2020 election results. There, he faced 13 criminal charges related to his efforts to overturn the election results. Trump had to pay $200,000 in bail and pledge not to use social media to target witnesses or related individuals. In total, Trump is facing 4 cases with 90 serious charges. The latest criminal charges against Trump include conspiring against the United States, obstructing an official proceeding, and conspiring to defraud voters of a fair election. What do you think about a person facing up to 90 charges and appearing in 4 different criminal trials in multiple states? One of these trials will take place before the specific election in April 2024. Assuming that Trump is convicted in this trial and has to go to prison, and he is subsequently elected president, will he run the country from behind bars? It might sound absurd, but Professor Richard L. Hasson of Columbia University, one of the leading experts in U.S. election law, asserts that anything is possible. Specifically, Professor Richard states that the U.S. Constitution has very few requirements for someone holding the position of president, such as being at least 35 years old, but the Constitution does not prevent anyone who is charged or convicted, even in prison, from running for and becoming president. Professor Richard L. Hasson notes that whether a president can serve while in prison is an interesting, untested question. However, if elected, Trump would have a unique privilege that no other prisoner on the planet has: the power to pardon himself. Robert Ray, Trump's defense attorney in the first impeachment trial, said that after Trump's indictment in June for his legal battle over secret documents, Trump decided he would control the Justice Department if elected. If the legal battle over secret documents is still pending at that time, he would dismiss the lawsuit. The U.S. law has some interesting provisions, and since Trump became president, the U.S. has experienced unprecedented events such as a riot when the president was not reelected, or the outgoing president's refusal to hand over power, and even a former president being criminally investigated and charged in 4 cases with 90 different charges. It's truly unexpected and hasn't been considered in law. This story will undoubtedly have many interesting twists and turns. Let's keep an eye on it, and remember not to let emotions govern your perspective.